Well, in today's class, you will be able to understand. Here 2 is missing. My bad. So here you will be able to understand the new vocabulary chords, tangents to a circle and use them to apply in theorems. So first one is a chord of a circle. What is a chord of a circle means? Let me draw a circle first. Let's take that a circle is given to you. Okay. And by definition, it says that whose endpoints are on the circle. Now let's look at the definition first. Okay. A chord of a circle is a straight line. You see that I'm drawing here a straight line segment. Let's say that AB is the line segment whose endpoints both lie on the circle. So here both the endpoints, you see that point A and point B, these two lie on the circle. Therefore, I call this as chord. So how many chords can be drawn? How many chords can be drawn means you can draw any number of chords. You can draw any number of chords. Say that this is another chord. Please remember that both the endpoints are on the circle. So here this is chord, these all are chords. These all are chords. This is another chord. Just I'm drawing randomly. Now, if I label them, maybe this one is CD and this one is EF. Let's say this is center of circle and this one is GH, then I, J, and so on. So here, if you observe carefully, the longest chord of the circle, you see that the longest chord of the circle. So here I'm taking EF. See that this is the longest chord of the circle. Rest are a little short and this is the longest one, right? So the longest chord of the circle is the diameter. Next, again, before going to the next point, chord of a circle means it is a straight line segment whose both the endpoints are on the circle. Next one is tangent to a circle. So, what is tangent to a circle? What is tangent to a circle? Let me move this one a little up. Okay. So, what is tangent to a circle? Let me draw a circle first. Let me take the black pen. Okay. So, a circle is drawn first of all. Next, let me read the definition. By definition, a tangent to a circle is a straight line which touches the circle at only one point. So let me try tangent. Please see that here this is not the tangent because by definition it has to touch the circle at one point. Do you see that here this is passing through one point? You don't bother about the length. It doesn't matter. Here you see that it is touching the circle at point P. Therefore, I can say that AB is a tangent. AB is a tangent. So what is tangent means? Once again, I'm repeating that it is a straight line or line segment that touches the circle at one point. Okay. Questions on this? In today's class, I'm going to take only two theorems. The first one is tangent and intersected chord theorem. First of all, just now I explained that a line segment whose endpoints are in the circle is known as a chord. Therefore, here A, B, this is a chord, right? This is a chord. And again, a straight line or line segment, that touches the circle at one point is known as tangent. That touches the circle at one point is known as tangent. Now let's read the statement. If a tangent, yes, I'm taking a tangent, and a chord, I'm taking a chord here, intersect at a point in the circle, then the measure of each angle formed. So here is one angle and here is another angle. Okay, there are two angles formed. So the measure of each angle formed is one half of the measure of the intercepted arc. Measure of the intercepted arc. So here intercepted arc means, suppose if I am taking angle 2, then you see that angle 2 and this is the intercepted arc. This is the intercepted arc. So measure of angle 2 equals to half of measure of BCA, this one. And measure of angle 1, if I am taking, let's say that measure of angle 1, which is here on the other side, then that is half of the measure of arc AB. Measure of the arc AB. Okay? In such case, I'll give one example. Well, so there are two examples here. So the first one is measure of the arc is given. Please notice that measure of the arc is given as 130 degrees. Okay, so measure of arc AB is given as 130 degrees. And the question is, what is the measure of angle 1? What is the measure of angle 1? So here, measure of angle 1 equals to half of measure of arc AB. Please remember this condition. So measure of arc AB, you know that this is 130 degrees. Therefore, half of 130 degrees, measure of angle 1 equals to half of 130, that is 65 degrees. So measure of angle 1 here, M stands for measure. Okay, so let me give another example. Here, the confusing part is, first of all, you have to check which value is given. Is it the angle between the chord and the tangent, or measure of arc? So here I see that measure of angle is given and you are asked to find what is the measure of the arc. Therefore, measure of starting with K, then J, then L. Therefore, the measure of arc KJL equals to measure of it is twice, or else let me write this one to the other side. So this would be good. So if I write that measure of angle KL, maybe some S, so measure of KLS equals to half the measure of the arc. Again, don't get confused. In case, first of all, you have to find whether the given value Is it the angle between the chord and tangent or arc? Okay, so measure of angle equals to half of the measure of the arc. Now let me plug in these values. Half of measure of KJL equals to measure of KLS, means here the value of the angle is given as 100. You can see that it is given as 125 degrees. 125 degrees. Now, if you want to isolate measure of KJL, if you want to isolate, you have to eliminate this fraction of. So you know that 2 is dividing here, then take times 2 on both the sides, then 2 and the denominator 2 gets cancelled. After the cancellation, measure of arc KJL equals to 2 times 125, that gives me 250 degrees. I know that just a couple of examples are not sufficient, so let me give more examples. Well, 2 more questions are on the screen now. Okay, so first of all, you have to remember this formula, that is measure of the angle made between the chord and the tangent equals to half the measure of the arc, Okay, so this point you have to remember, measure of angle equals to half the measure of the arc. Right, now let's plug in these values. Measure of what is the angle, means here angle is not given, so you have to figure out what is the measure of angle 1 equals to half the measure of arc. You see that here the arc value is mentioned as 210 degrees. It is mentioned as 210 degrees. Okay, so half of the measure of let me remove this one, it is 210 degrees. So half of 210 degrees. So half of 210 means half of 200, that is 100. Half of 10 is 5, therefore it is 105 degrees. That's the measure of angle 1. Okay, any questions on this? Okay, so one more example. Let's go to the next one. So here one point you have to remember, guys, that is the simple formula. If you can memorize this one, then that would be great, which is measure of angle equals to half the measure of the arc. In fact, I'm going to use this one again and again, the same rule again and again. So just I copied this one and I duplicated and I moved this one here. Now, let me solve this question. So, I see that here the angle is given 98 degrees. Please see that angle is given 98 degrees. And you are asked that, please look at the question. What is the measure of the arc? Okay, so measure of angle, just plug in the numbers as 98 degrees. Half of measure of guys, you can see that arc value, this one, please remember arc means a part of the boundary line. Okay, this we don't know. So here measure of arc, TSR. So there are 3 letters, and let me put the arc symbol on the top of that. So as I told you before, we have to figure out the value of measure of TSR, and we have to eliminate this half. So how to eliminate this half means, I'm sure that you know that we have to multiply by 2 on both these sides. So 2 and half gets cancelled. You'll get that measure of arc TSR equals to 2 times 98 to 2 times 90 is 180 and 2 times 8 is 16. So 180 and 16 is 196 degrees. Okay. Now questions on this. The next theorem is angles inside the circle. Angles inside the circle. First of all, we discussed what is a chord, right? Suppose a circle is given. A circle is given. You know that what is a chord? It is a straight line segment whose endpoints are in the circle. Therefore, here I am drawing two chords. You see that they are intersecting. They are intersecting inside the circle, right? Now, do you see that here four angles are formed? Of course, vertically opposite angles are equal. Vertically opposite angles are equal. Therefore, let me take only two angles. Let's say that angle 1 is taken and angle 2 I'm taking. So just I'm marking only two angles because the other two angles, like 1 equals to 3 and angle 2 equals to angle 4, right? So I'm taking only the adjacent angles. Adjacent angles means angles which are neighbors on either side of the either side of the common side, right? Suppose if you are given this kind of diagram, say A, B, C, D I'm taking. If you are asked to find what is the measure of, let me remove this diagram. Okay, what is the measure of, measure of angle 1? Measure of angle 1 equals to half of, okay, so measure of DC, please remember that let me use a different color. Okay, measure of angle 1 equals to DC and AB values are added. Measure of arc AB and measure of arc DC are added and half of them are taken. Okay, so let me give an example really quick. Say that you are given, let's say that, let me copy a diagram. Let me duplicate. Okay, and say that, let me take some numbers here. Say that this arc is given as 130 degrees and this arc is given as some 150 degrees. Again, they need not be the same values. Please notice that one is 130 and one is 150 degrees. And say that you are asked to find what is the value of angle x. Angle x. Therefore, when you are asked to find the value of this one, you have to consider this arc, and the arc which is opposite to that. You have to consider both these arcs. Okay, you see that the values are given at 130, 150 degrees. Therefore, here measure of angle x, measure of angle x equals to, okay, equals to half the measure of, you have to sum up both these arcs, that is measure of arc BC, and measure of arc AD, Oops. So what are these measurements means? Half of measure of BC please see that measure of BC is here. So I see that 150 degrees, so that goes here, which is 150 degrees, plus measure of AD means that is you can see that 130 degrees. 130 degrees. First, by PEMDAS, we sum up which are inside the parenthesis. So I get that 150 plus 130, that is 280 degrees. Half of 280 degrees equals to 140 degrees. Therefore, the value of x equals to 140. Therefore, you can see that x value is given here and you are asked to compute. As simple as that. Okay. Any questions on this? So let me take another example. So angles inside the circle theorem. Here, please notice that you are asked to find the value of y. This one is a little complicated. You know, here y is given and here 95 degrees are given, right? And that is connected to this angle. Let me label this as maybe point O. This point I am taking. This is not the center, but just I am taking as O. Therefore, angle DOC is, please notice that this is connected to y and 95, but this value is not given, but the adjacent value is given as 102. The adjacent one is given as 102. Therefore, you know that here the straight line makes 180 degrees, right? So here straight line makes 180 degrees. Therefore, you can figure out what is DOC. So let me write that straight line makes 180 degrees. Therefore, angle DOC plus angle BOC equals to 180 degrees, and the value of BOC is given as 102. Therefore, DOC plus 102 equals to 180. You know that we go for inverse operations in order to figure out what's the value of DOC. We get that angle DOC equals to 180, take away 102, you get 78 degrees. Therefore, I got this angle as 78. Okay, so let's quickly visit back the previous page. Here is the formula. I hope you remember. If you forgot, then please remember the measure of angle equals to half of the measure of arc 1 plus measure of arc 2 on the other side, which means half of measure of arc 1 means this is the measure of arc 1 and this is the measure of arc 2. Okay, and what is the measure of angle means? Here is the measure of angle and this one goes here, so you have to remember which value where to be plugged in the formula. So here I am taking 78 degrees equals to what is the measure of arc 1? You see that it is 95 degrees plus measure of arc 2, it is y. Therefore, here we have to isolate the variable that is y, right? So let's eliminate the other values one after the other. one after the other. How to do that means, you know that first of all, let me eliminate this f. How to do that? You know that the inverse operation is times 2 on both these sides. So 2 and 2 gets cancelled. Then after the cancellation, I'm left with the 95 plus y equals to 2 times 78. 2 times 70, 140, 2 times 8 is 16. So 156 degrees. Now, you know how to isolate y. If there's no symbol, you can assume that positive, and we go by this inverse operation and take away 95 on both the sides. You get that the value of y equals to 61. Yes, it is. If you want to make use of calculator, the value of y equals to 61 degrees. Again, as I told you before, first of all, you have to remember the condition or the formula. So here, measure of angle equals to half the measure of arc 1 plus arc 2. So again, I see that a kind of a relation with the first theorem which you learned. The first theorem also says that, please look at this one, please look at this one. Here, measure of angle equals to half the measure of arc, right? And here, measure of angle equals to arc 1 plus arc 2. That's the difference. So let me copy this one so that we need not waste much of time. So copy. So next question is, this is a straight question, this is a straight question. So as I told you before, you have to understand which part goes where. Here, this is the angle given, this is the angle given, which is, oops, I'm sorry. So here, this is, let me reduce the thickness, my bad. Okay, so here the angle x is given, angle x is given. Please remember, this one goes here, this one goes here, and next measure of these arcs. So one arc is here, one arc is here, and notice that this is the second arc. So arc 1 goes here and arc 2 goes here. Now just plug in these values. Measure of angle x degrees equals to half of measure of arc. I see that 145 degrees, and the second one, you see that the second one is taken from here. It is 85 degrees. Just plug in the numbers. You may make use of calculator. What is 100? Remember PEMDAS, we have to simplify which are in parentheses. So 145 plus 85, is it 230? Yes, it is 230 degrees. So what is half of 230? Means 115 degrees. Okay. Now, any questions on this? Well, that's it for me for today's class. If you have any questions, feel free to email.